This is MountainBikeRiding.com, episode number 2. Hello and welcome to MountainBikeRiding.com, episode number 2. My name is Pete and I'm your host. And today we're going to go over, I'll be going through an introduction to kind of tell you who I am and what MountainBikeRiding.com is all about. And then in the feature segment, I'll be going over 6 tips on how to maintain some fitness during the winter time. It can be a little difficult sometimes, but I've got some tips that might help you maintain some fitness so you can be ready for the mountain bike season. And then in the trail review, I'll be reviewing the Porcupine Rim Trail in Moab, Utah. It's one of my favorites, and I thought I'd give you a little info on it. So without further ado, we'll get right into the intro. Okay, so I thought I'd give you a little introduction and some background on who I am and sort of my mountain biking timeline or career, whatever you want to call it. But I started mountain biking about 20 years ago, or actually it's been a little more than that, when I was 13 years old. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and I joined a mountain bike club there called the Disciples of Dirt, and they were they're still around. It's a great crew of riders, and they were a bit older than me, although there were a few kids that were starting out at about the same time I was. But it was kind of fun to learn from the older guys. You know, they gave me a lot of good riding tips and maintenance tips along the way, and showed me some awesome trails up there in Oregon. And during that time, I was actually introduced to one of my bosses. He offered me a job at the local bike shop there in Eugene, and I worked there for many years and worked at a few different bike shops since that time. But it was an awesome experience because I was able to pick up a lot of mechanical skills and learn from some great mechanics there, as well as kind of get a feel for the bike industry and how it worked. And it was also just a super fun time, a great group of guys and gals to work with, and it was a great experience. So I worked all the way through high school and actually till about 22 at various different bike shops, and have a lot of good memories of that. So. And then during that time, I raced mountain bikes and cyclocross and did some road racing, but mainly focused on the mountain bike racing. I worked my way up through the sport expert, semi-pro, and then eventually raced professionally for a couple years, and also did some endurance racing, mainly focused on the 100-mile event, one in particular, the Cascade Cream Puff up in Oak Ridge, Oregon. Yeah, it's a great name, but it's an awesome race. It's super fun, and if you're into endurance racing at all, it's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I got to on the normal mountain bike circuit, which is the Norba National Circuit, usually races of about 30 miles in length. I got to travel around the country and meet a lot of different people, and ride a lot of different terrain, and just get to experience the whole country sort of via mountain bike racing, which was really rewarding, and I have a lot of great memories from that too. So that was a lot of fun. And all during that time, I had moved from Eugene to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is in northern Arizona near the Grand Canyon. And I moved to Flagstaff for school, as well as the training climate here was just great because Flagstaff's at 7,000 feet, so kind of the boost in the high altitude training was good. And Flagstaff has a great network of trails, and it also has Sedona close by, which is a little lower in elevation, and provides some great wintertime riding. So, but yeah, and then I've lived in Flagstaff for, I believe it's like 12 years now, and I really like it. But during that time, after school, I raced pro for a couple years, and then decided that there was other things in life that I wanted to pursue. So I stopped racing, but I definitely didn't stop riding, because I love that so much. So have continued to ride, and just ride for fun and with friends, and just share in the enjoyment of mountain biking. So, but basically wanted to give you a little lowdown on what mountainbikeriding.com is all about. I started this site to share in some of the knowledge that I have, whether it's specific mountain bike riding skills or maintenance and repair tips on how to keep your mountain bike running smoothly, and also just sharing some info on the trails that I've ridden and enjoy, and maybe some other trails that I'm hearing about from other riders. And along those lines, want to get some information out on some mountain bike tours and vacations, or mountain bike holidays that are coming up. So want to keep you up to date on that, and just some other mountain bike news. What's going on in the world of mountain biking. And this is all about a community aspect too. If you have a comment or question, definitely let me know on the website under any of the blog posts or any of the pages on the site. So that's kind of the brief rundown of what this site's all about. And definitely will be, I'll be doing more podcasts, both audio and video. So stay tuned for that. And let me know if you have any comments or questions. All right, so something I wanted to talk about was keeping your fitness in the wintertime. I know that I've been kind of trying to focus on that recently. Here in Flagstaff, we've had a bunch of snow, and it's kind of slowed the riding down a little bit. So it's time to think about other ways to keep the fitness going, so that when the mountain bike season hits again, it's not a total shocker as to how out of shape we are, right? So I just kind of want to go over some ideas on how to stay fit during the sort of the wintertime slump, because it can be bad weather, it can be dark outside when you get off work, and that can be kind of frustrating. But I've got sort of an outline of some things to consider doing when got a little bit of time, and I'll go through them here. First of all, I guess if you're fortunate enough to live in a place where maybe it's just kind of cold and wet outside, you can just tough it out and get out there and ride in the wet weather. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and in the wintertime, that place is incredibly wet. And I found that the hardest part was to actually just get outside and do it. And looking outside when the rain's coming down, it's just kind of like, oh man, I don't want to ride. But once you get out there, it's not quite as bad as it seemed. So that I think that's the biggest hurdle, is just getting over that. And this, of course, when you're out there riding in wet weather, if you're mountain biking, depending on where you live, just be sensitive to the trails and their condition. In Eugene, in the surrounding areas, when we would ride in the winter, we would usually pick spots that were not as sensitive to problems with erosion and things of that nature. Sometimes we'd actually find places where motorcycles and ATVs or off-road vehicles would go, because they were sort of, I guess, kind of mucked up already, and it didn't really matter if we rode our mountain bikes on it. It wasn't too much of an impact. So, but there was other trails that we just completely stayed off of. So I think it's a good idea just to be aware of that. And, if there's a lot of riding on those sensitive trails, then it can cause problems with other users, hikers and equestrians. They, don't look too kindly on that kind of stuff. So I think it's just a good idea to be aware of that. And then